Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue to unpack classical China, supposedly classical China era's concepts. And when we talk about classical China, it's about 2,000 years since the standardization or unification of Chinese, of different regional cultures, different regional standards, that Qin, 2,000 years ago, roughly, that standardized our spelling of the language, and many, many policies, the same currency and all that. So ever since the central government establishment, so that's about 2,000 years of Chinese and boiled down to essential concepts. And today we're going to talk about 策. And you can see simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese looks the same, but 2,000 years ago's seal script got more curves and more details. And almost always I would explain things through the earliest version. That's after the standardization of Chinese, because it got more details. And actually, look at this frame. This is even earlier than the standardized version, where things were more like drawings, right? And these drawings are not just hand drawing. They are most likely to be preserved into caves by carved onto either like pottery or casted into bronzeware or carved into bones. So it's a lot of effort. And so you see things are more pointy almost. It's based on the material that it was preserved through history that we, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 years later, we can see that still. Okay, so this is the earliest version, one of the many earliest versions of the chi concept that's below here. This chi plus the bamboo symbol made the policy symbol. So unpacking. The chi came from originally like this. So this we can almost visually see. This is about a tree. This is the root of the tree, and then the trunk of the tree. Then we have like 3 directions to have this top one got this arrow symbol on top of it. So bone and arrow, I guess, as ancient weaponry was popular in the sense that it's almost like a standard. If you want to have like long range weaponry, that was the ancient equivalent of long range weaponry, and everybody would know, okay, this looks like an arrow. An arrow here connected on top of a tree simply means it's pointy, it's sharp as compared to arrow. So this is one icon overlapped on top of another to give it a sense of, okay, we're talking about a tree, but something as pointy as an arrow on top of a tree. And the 2 sides also kind of pointy, but without an arrow drawn. Some other versions would have each side arrow. So that's a lot of business going on. So eventually, when people adopt this concept, we just retain one arrow. And you can see from here to here, things got even more evolved, that we lost the arrow symbol and made it into upturned corner, and that looks like a tree. So when it came to the seal script, that's about 2,000 years ago's dictionary version, that we have not only the top arrow disappeared, but also the bottom root got standardized back then into this arch thing facing downward and kind of arch facing upward. And that's our tree symbol. And then we have this horizontal line cutting through roughly the trunk of the tree with 2 pointy. So that was the standardization back then. And when we trace earlier, we can see, originally how that looks. Simply means a spiky plant. Okay, spiky plant paired with bamboo symbol. Bamboo symbol simply is the drapey leaves of the bamboo. And because bamboo often comes in a cluster, it's not like a single standing tree. It's most often it's a cluster of bamboos comes as a group. So we have 2 of them pointing downward is the leaves of the bamboo. And we know this is something made of bamboo. and it is spiky, as if it's that kind of plant, spiky plant. Pair together means spur, equivalent functionally as the spur. So spur is human communication to horse because we cannot talk, cannot verbally communicate. We have to use this tangible skin, like inflicted some pain to pass the signal to the horse. And how that became policy, there was a little bit of a logic jump. So my explanation is policy was issued by the ruler of a country. So Chinese would conceptualize the structure of society as almost like a pyramid. There's one person on the very tip, and then there's the ruling class, right? The smaller triangle, and then the base of the majority of the population, which I guess 95% or something, depends on when, would be farmers. So, and farmers most likely illiterate. So that was the ancient societal structure. And for the ruler, one person, to issue the policy, it's almost like for the rider to send the message to the horse, to give it a spur. So in that sense, the policy almost serves, even if it's a communication verbally, almost serves as from the rider to the horse way of communication, that this spiky thing carried on in bamboo would be the policy of from the ruler to the nation. So the nation almost like the animal. It would have its own operating or way of working if you don't tell the nation what to do specifically in a particular area. So that makes sense to me. And we have 政策、国策、边策, three expressions to go with it. 政策, 政 means political policies. So I guess 政策, nowadays, when we talk about 政策, we don't really think of political policies. We just use it as policies. Even if it's economic policies or social policies, we still use 政策, kind of a double down of a message, because policies, who issue them? It's a political organization that's currently running the country, right? So it's almost like redundant definition of the thing. But Chinese, because we are monosyllables, we have to, this is a Chinese way to create almost like a double syllabus to pin down the definition of things so that the listener of the language can disambiguous of the message. All right, 政策, 国策, 国 means nation, nationwide policies. So that's a policy that's going to be carried out throughout the nation. And I draw it kind of similar to or comparable to constitution. So, but later on, I kind of negate it. That's why I don't draw the equal sign, because constitution for America is the founding operating manual of the nation. So it's kind of the DNA code of how the nation is run. Versus national policies. Policies is less stable, less deeply coded as the way how the nation is run. It's more about the scope of the application of the policy, because China is such a big piece of land of diverse culture and population and regional economies, right? So sometimes when before they issue a national level policy, they would test it out locally to see how it goes, right? Many of such policies, especially before it became national policy, would be regional policy. So once it comes to national policy, 国策, you know, okay, it's already tested out, most likely. All right, 鞭策, whip, spur. So this came back to its original meaning. That is, send the message to the horse. We can send the message to the horse or animal either through a whip or spur. Both of them kind of inflict this sort of pain. To humans, we would understand it's kind of painful, right? Probably the animals will feel painful as well. But we can also do verbal communication to them. So inflicting a a certain pain to the animal become the nonverbal communication. So for Chinese, this, if we use between humans, human to human, in the context of teacher to student or parent to child, or even government to local, to the populations, that 鞭策 would be this negative feedback to try to incentivize you. So instead of, say, the parent to child communication, we know that the better way is to be firm but kind, right? So this is Chinese way of communication, to be firm but unkind, so that it kind of almost feel painful, like it's ego hurting. It kind of bursts your bubble or make you face some hard realities of some through the negative feedback. It's almost like painful to hear. But because of the painful, sometimes it may work to have behavioral change by giving the negative feedback. So it's firm and unkind messaging. So that's kind of roughly equivalent to urge. All right, so here we go. 策. And the best known national policy from China, contemporary China, would be one child policy. And you can see here on a poster from the past, this one child, right? Mother, child. And then here we can see 国策, this national policy. All right, 策. Thank you for your time.